So I'm here with Teri Robb, who's the Vice President of Sales for North America at Check Point, and we're at their Innovation Center here in San Carlos, California. And so today we're going to be talking about enterprise software sales, cybersecurity, and really helping women understand what opportunity it is to get into this field. So,
excellent.
So you're from North Dakota.
Yep. Originally grew up in North Dakota, went to the University of North Dakota.
Okay.
And then moved to the Minneapolis area right after college.
Great. And I know that you've been with Check Point for quite a number of years. And so how did you get into working, how did you get into cybersecurity and working at the largest software company in cybersecurity?
Well, Lorene, I'd like to say it was planned and strategic, but it really wasn't. It just kind of happened. Graduated from college and took a sales job. Took a sales job until I could find a real job, if you will, and here I am 30 years later, still looking for a real job, I guess. So kind of grew up in the hardware sales, selling PCs, servers, that kind of thing. And then that brought me into networking in the remote access world. And from there, focused on the security space. So I've been with Check Point a little over 10 years. And it's interesting to see how our industry has changed in 10 years. Mm-hmm. You know, I used to have to explain to friends and family what I did, and now, you know, it's on drama TV what cybersecurity is. So now everybody understands, at least at some level, the importance of cybersecurity in our daily lives. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, today I was prepping for a panel, cybersecurity panel for next week, and one of the CISOs that's going to be on the panel was talking about how some of the executives that they report this information to is saying, oh, this is probably just an espionage type, drama. But now it's the real deal, and definitely very interesting and intriguing, but also very scary at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and at an executive at a board level, I mean, there's personal accountability. And it's a concern. It's definitely, I like to say it's a concern at the boardroom and also at the dining room table these days.
Absolutely. So what do you find attractive to this position?
Well, it's so diverse. No 2 days are ever alike. And, when I started in the industry years ago, I was young and one of the very few women in the industry. In fact, I can actually remember going and getting glasses with clear glass in them, so I looked older. Now I don't have to look older. I just can all stop. But you just, I think I was 22 years old and definitely in a man's world. And I had a customer that kind of took me under his wing, kind of a grandfatherly kind of way, and really helped me learn the business. And I'll never forget that. And it was, I thoroughly enjoyed, like I said, no 2 days are ever alike.
Right.
The competitiveness of it. And then when I moved into sales leadership, I really enjoyed the mentoring and the coaching that goes with it. And I like getting inside our customers' business and understanding their business and their challenges and how we can assist. Some people in our industry are very, very technical, and it's the technology that drives them. They're passionate about the technology. I can't say I'm passionate about the technology. It's what the technology allows a business to do. Mm-hmm. And, think about the commerce that we are now doing. I mean, our lives are run off of our phones. Our lives are run off of the internet. And it's pretty darn important that we have security that goes with that. So That's what's exciting to me, not necessarily the technology.
Okay, good. Yeah. I was just thinking back, I used to work at Ernst & Young in their IT well, I wasn't in IT consulting. I just went in as a temp out of college and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I remember seeing these people going just really fast-paced, really important. They seem to be, they're always on these interviews. And I'm like, what is that? What are they interviewing for? And they were going to interview on, the jobs that they had, the consulting jobs that they had. And it was IT consulting.
Sure.
And I finally went to one of the partners there and I said, his name was Terry. I said, I want to be in your group because I've got to do what they are doing. And he took me under his wing too and taught me everything. And but I understand what you're saying. It's really interesting to learn about the business and how you can solve that. And it's so important today in cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I definitely, reading reports and talking to other women in security in this field, there's definitely an increase in candidates coming in, women candidates. But do you see that as well in your hiring?
We do, especially in a sales role. We still don't see very many from an engineering perspective or from a leadership perspective. Part of that from a leadership perspective, I think, is going to take time. As more women have joined at the sales level, it'll take time for them to develop their careers and be ready to move into leadership. But I will tell you, the women we hire do extremely well, particularly in account management and in sales. There's kind of an empathy that I think women bring to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? They're different. I always say, if you think of what our customers do every day, their days are pretty dull when you think about, being in cybersecurity all day long. I want them to think in the morning, hey, Checkpoint's coming in today, and be excited about the team coming in and what the team can bring to them, the value they can bring. And I think the diversity and the difference with having a woman on the team is really important. And the other thing we talk about is there is a shortage of cybersecurity specialists, whether you're talking sales or you're talking a technical role,
Mm-hmm.
and we need more women to enter the field. And I think there's a misconception that you have to be uber technical to understand this industry, that you have to be sitting in a basement with your hoodie up coding. That's not true at all. I mean, I am not technical. And there's all sorts of roles, whether it's marketing or sales or finance related, that are important in our cybersecurity world. They're not all uber technical.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you're talking about what the different quality that a woman brings. And, I've spent several times with you now. I saw you most recently in New Orleans at the Mardi Gras warehouse, and you had your mask on. And but one thing I noticed after the few times that I've met you is that you have this natural ability to make people feel comfortable and at ease.
Thank you.
And I think that goes along with it. I've been in this tech industry for, a long time, over 20 years. Male dominated, definitely. A lot of times the only woman in many, many meetings. Few people even at Excellion on the executive team. But I always look at it as women bring a different viewpoint and a different way of looking at things and a way to even negotiate. Because I did strategic alliances for a long time, negotiated software deals, and you just come with a different perspective. And so what do you think is your secret sauce to being successful in this field?
Right. I think listening and seeing all sides, like you said, how many times have we been in a meeting and it's all men? And sometimes you can tell they come in with a set mindset, and it's going to be their way or the highway. And I do think that's one thing, and it's not unique to women. Some men can do this very well too. But just listening and seeing all sides and maybe bringing the group together to a consensus. And one thing I'll say with Checkpoint from a leadership perspective, and maybe this is our Israeli heritage, but we have a lot of women executives. Our CFO is an executive, or is a woman. Our CTO is a woman. Head of HR is a woman. So for a small leadership team, you get the top positions. Mm-hmm. And our chief technologist is a woman.
Right.
She was like number 8 with the company.
Right.
So
I've seen her speak before. She's great. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. She is.
That's good. So I guess what advice can you give women coming into this field? I know in sales especially, there's a lot of travel involved, and but when the kids come in and they're younger, out of college, it's less of an issue for them. But it's as they move up the ranks, there's definitely challenges in this field. What would you tell them as advice coming into the field?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is always be ready for that next opportunity and never say no. Even if you don't think you're quite ready, jump in and try it, because I can guarantee you your male counterparts aren't worried that they're not ready. So try it. As I always say, if it's legal and ethical, give it a shot. As far as the balance component, I do think that's getting better. But it is important that we have balance. It truly is. And I travel every week now with my role. But boy, when my kids were little, I didn't. You have to find a way to balance, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But I think I think companies are beginning to understand that and the importance of balance for dads and for moms,
Right,
you know, for
right.
that matter.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's better for young parents of today.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I started out, I was traveling all the time too. I had 2 young kids at the time, and it was definitely a challenge, but I loved it. You know, I loved the challenge of it, and now my kids are grown, and it's fun to be, you know, I was looking at being a role model for them.
Yeah.
And every time I would have a new office or new job, I'd bring them in, and they would look at my office. I just wanted to see them, have them see it. And they definitely look up to me now. It's really fun, and we're more friends. I mean, last night they wanted me to go play ping pong with them in San Francisco.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, that's really fun.
I think that role model is important, though, and I have a son and a daughter, and they're both in software sales now. And I do think that they learned a lot from, you know, watching both my husband and I and what it takes. And I know my son joked that, Mom, I can't quite imagine ever having stayed home with you instead of going to daycare. And I know he meant it as a compliment, even though it probably didn't come out that way. But
Right.
that made me feel good that he doesn't have any regrets.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
That's funny. One time in between, I mean, I stopped one job, and then I thought I'll just take a couple months off, and so I started carpooling my kids to school, and they were like, "What?" And so I was in my car, and then after a little while, like, "When are you going back to work, Mom?"
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, yeah. So I mean, it's. I think that the field is, you know, it's growing. More women are getting into it, and I agree with you. I think just taking that chance, taking the risk, or stepping up and accepting, because there's a lot of times, you know, I'm in meetings with a lot of mostly men, mostly, and sometimes it's intimidating to step up and say, you know, no, I'm going to do this, but once you do it, it's so empowering.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the one thing too for young women to get across is just take that chance, and it's very empowering, and it just drives you to do the next thing and the next thing.
And, you know, people want to help. You know, I would say, yes, it can be intimidating, but I also think that people want you to succeed too. So, you know, ask for that next step.
Right.
You know, ask for what you can do to get to that next level. And I think most healthy organizations are going to help in any way that they can.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really true that men don't really think, oh, I'm not prepared for this opportunity. And I think we definitely, as women, need to feel like it more often.
Yep.
And
Yep.
More deserved of compensation, and not being afraid to ask for it too.
Exactly.
So that's good.
Worst thing they can say is no.
That's true. That's true. So if you were, I mean, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but if you were in Starbucks and a woman came up to you and knew who you were, the Teri Robb, and asked your advice on, you know, what's the next step that they should do to get into cybersecurity in an enterprise sales role, what would you offer them as advice?
Well, you know, depending on, I guess, the amount of experience they had in the working world, many companies, Checkpoint included, have what we call an entry-level program, where it's like classroom training that's done at our worldwide headquarters, and then they go out in the field and they shadow under a salesperson or under a sales engineer. And I can't think of a better way to get immersed in the cybersecurity industry than a program like that. And again, it's not just Checkpoint. You know, there are other companies that do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
If it's somebody that's a little bit later in career, I guess I would suggest that they give it a shot. You know, and we have a huge channel organization, a huge partner organization as well. Everything we do at Checkpoint is done through the partner community, the channel organization, and they have salespeople as well. So a lot of people will start their careers there and determine that they love that piece of the business, and they spend the rest of their career there, or they move into a manufacturer, if you will, type position. So there's many ways to kind of enter the industry, but again, we're looking for people, and we collectively in the industry are looking for people.
Yeah, that's good. That's, you know, asking, looking, and taking that opportunity to get their foot in the door to start that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so I know the job is stressful in cybersecurity and CISOs in particular, because I do a lot of work with CISO community. Stress is the number one issue. And I always ask them, what they like to do outside of work. So I'm going to pose that to you. Do you have hobbies outside of traveling all the time and, and working?
Well, honestly, not a ton. It is something I need to work on because having the kind of job I've had and raising 2 kids, there haven't been a lot of extra time. But my husband and I do love to boat. So we live on a lake in Minnesota, and we like to go boating in the Florida area too when we can get away in the wintertime. Do like to golf. People say, "Are you a golfer?" I said, "No, I golf, but I'm not a golfer." And I do like to run. So,
okay.
Try to be outside as much as possible.
Yeah. How do you find it when you're traveling? Do you work out? Yeah, it's such a challenge.
I do.
Yeah.
I force myself to because, there's a lot of lunches and dinners and entertaining that goes with our jobs. And I almost find it easier to work out when I'm traveling because there's no distractions.
I know, exactly.
So I'll get up early, get that workout out of the way. Where at home,
I know, there's always something.
Laundry, the dogs, whatever.
Exactly. But I do find it's extremely important to work out and just to clear my head. But and then I noticed that you wore a mask at the New Orleans masquerade or the Mardi Gras warehouse.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite themed holiday?
Oh, for sure, Christmas.
Okay.
I'm a Christmas junkie. I just love it.
Okay.
I just love it. So
good.
It's my time. When I was younger, I could hardly sleep in December because when the kids were little and whatnot.
Right.
So I'm a Christmas girl.
Okay. Good. So how has you've been in the industry now, at least Checkpoint, 11 years, but longer with the other companies you work for. How has it evolved over the time? And then just a follow up of what advice would you give to your yourself, your younger self? Yeah.
Well, as far as the industry, it is moving so quickly, and I look at our customers, particularly at a C-level like a CISO or a CIO. They don't have time to keep up on technology. Even though it's an important part of their job, they just don't have time. So they either delegate it to their team or they need it in little short bits. In fact, we just had Checkpoint Experience last week. You mentioned it in New Orleans. And we did an executive track for the first time. And we had roughly 50 CISOs and CIOs there. And the feedback was very positive because they wanted to spend time with their colleagues. They wanted to understand, how are you addressing this issue? How are you addressing that issue?
Mm-hmm.
And 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of that was going on. First of all, there were very few companies that actually had a CISO role.
Right.
You had to be a pretty large enterprise if you had a true security information officer.
Right.
Now, even small companies, if it's not a dedicated CISO role, there's certainly somebody that's playing that role. So that's changed our industry a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What would I tell my younger self? Probably to relax a little bit and have fun along the way. I think I'm getting better as I get older, but I can tend to be a little uptight and maybe take myself and my life and those around me a little too seriously. So have a little fun along the way, I guess is maybe what I would give my younger self.
Good. And actually, I just remembered something I wanted to ask you, given that we were talking about New Orleans last week, and I saw your post on Facebook LinkedIn, about the Women Leadership Breakfast.
Yes.
And so I was wondering, tell me about that. What is that, what's that about? And is there an internal initiative? Was that internal employees or?
It was. It was internal employees, and it was actually all started by Dorit Dorr, who was our Chief Technical Officer. I mentioned her earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And she just likes, and this was started back, in fact, when I first went to my first one, there were 4 people there. There were 4 women at this women breakfast. And it's meant to be, sales leaders or women leaders within the organization that would be at CPX. There were 4 of us. There were actually 16 invited this time. 4 couldn't make it, so there were 12 of us at the breakfast.
Okay.
So that was kind of fun to see how, we've got more and more women leaders. And I just think it's really fun that Dorit really likes to do this. She's been with Checkpoint for 25 plus years.
Yeah.
And this is something she really looks forward to.
And do you meet just on occasion, or do you have initiatives that you focus on and talk about?
We meet formally just at CPX.
Oh, okay.
Is when we do this, once a year.
Yeah.
But Dorit was sharing with us that she's kicked off a women mentoring program within our R&D organization, and was kind of challenging me to do the same thing in the sales field. So I think I will. I think it's a, and it's a little different in the field because we're not in the same location.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't still do the mentoring, virtually.
Right.
With the technology that we have today.
That's good.
But yeah, it's something I want to work with our HR team to establish.
That's good. Yeah, it's interesting because I remember back in the day, us talking and you saying things jogs my memory about things that I've done too. And it's, you do take yourself seriously younger, and you're just gone to the next win, and especially in sales. But now it's more about giving back and being purposeful and doing things with a purpose for those around you. And I think a lot of women are, especially as they've advanced in their career, like us, are doing more of that. And I think it's really important that we do that for the women coming up, because it's a crazy world out there with cybersecurity and everything else going on. And I think it's really important for us to provide that, that path and that mentorship for them. So I think it's great that that you're doing that. And I do hear that more and more companies are doing that. But it really comes down to us really taking that initiative and wanting to do that and seeing the benefits. So
exactly. Yeah, an HR program is one thing. You've got to have the the people in the trenches, if you will, that want to do it and are interested in doing it.
Right. Or else it's difficult to get it off the ground. So good.
Exactly.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say or offer up in terms of advice or any information?
Well, I would like to thank you for your initiative in doing these podcasts. I think it is a great idea, and hopefully as more and more people in other fields see this, they'll realize, the industry that we have.
Good.
Want to join us.
Yeah. My goal with this program, and I was telling Rob about in our internal team, is I would love it that people find this so informative and so useful and really impactful that there will be a line of people outside our door on my phone calling me to be on it. That's really my goal. We have the chief information security officer of a very large company in New York in the lineup right now. I'm trying to find a time to get her scheduled on the show, but I'm really excited about the opportunity, and it's great to have you on as one of our first people to launch this. I'm really excited about it, and so hopefully by the end of this year that my goal will be achieved. So spread the word. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you, Teri Robb from Checkpoint, for participating in our interview, and I'm looking forward to connecting up with you again.
Thank you.